Okay, so it's road trip day. Today is Saturday, and I'm excited. It's the end of the month in September, and I had so much to do. This was really bad timing, but I could not miss this opportunity for several reasons. But I'm going to a small town called Hagan, Georgia. My face is really shiny. I put a lot of moisturizer on it this morning to kind of hide the wrinkles, so by the time I get there, because it's an hour and a half away, that it should be dry. It shouldn't be as shiny, because I'm really shiny. But anyways, it's road trip day. I'm going to Hagan, Georgia, which is a small town outside Claxton, Georgia. A lot of people don't know about it. And I'm going to meet relatives for the first time. And I'm 55 years old, so meeting somebody for the first time is pretty exciting, especially since everybody, when you do genealogy, they either just pass because you learn so much information about people through their obituaries that it's always a depressing thing that someone just passed. Well, a few months ago, I went and got to see Don Perkins in Perkins, Georgia, and learned so much about a family I did not know I had. And now I'm taking it even a step further and getting even closer and to the answers that maybe that I've been searching for a year now have answers. So I'm really excited about this road trip. I'm going to the cemetery where I believe my grandfather and great-grandmother and their family is all buried there. And while I'm there, I'm gonna get to speak to a woman that actually has met one of them that died way before I was born, and we never met, and we're still trying to figure out what his initials WC stand for. So it's kind of crazy because my dad's initials are CW Jennings, and this man's name was WC. But I don't think it's the same middle name. When I'm looking up the family names, I'm seeing a William Carl. So this family likes to repeat names. So I'm kind of thinking that could be what WC stands for, but I don't know. We should take a bet and see and find out what it stands for. But I have reached out to a relative that was confirmed through DNA of one of his relatives. And I reached out to him, and I rarely get messages back. Rarely. People don't really like to accept when people come into a family so late into the game and everything like that. But so I wrote him, and I woke up to a text message real early in the morning. It was like 7:30 in the morning, and it I guess didn't come through all the way because it just said location marked location, and I was like, what in the world? And so I did the little question mark back to him, and he goes, I'm the man you messaged last night. And I like sat up in my bed. I was like totally shocked, like so happy. The location he sent me was to the property that my great-grandmother and my great-grandfather owned at one time in Hagan, and they raised their children there. He said, it's hardly standing anymore. It's not in the family anymore, but he goes, here's the location. So I was really excited over that. Then I find out, he just starts texting me back and forth. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this. Like, he's actually wanting to talk and everything like that. He says he lives in another part of Georgia, and he's like, I'm actually gonna be there this weekend. I said, can you please go through pictures and see if you find anything? any kind of picture for anybody, I would love, because we have no idea what this man even looks like, or what my grandmother or my great-grandmother, I know what my grandma looks like, but I don't know what my great-grandma looks like, and I do have a picture of my great-grandfather and some of those relatives, because they are from Perkins, Georgia, and that is very well documented of how they founded Perkins, Georgia. So that's exciting. So anyways, I'm going, and he says, you might be able to meet my mother, who actually knew WC. What? Yes, I really want to go. So I am jumping in the car today, and cross fingers everything goes well, because I did not make contact with them this morning, and I probably should have before I drive an hour and a half. But I look at it this way: I wanted to go to this cemetery for a while now, and now I can. So hopefully they have a little flower shop or something outside of it, and I can bring some flowers to my great grandmother that I do not know, did not, thing. And I, working through this genealogy, I have been knee deep. So this is really something that has taken and consumed so much of my time to uncover, and it's not even been just on my part, it's been on my daughter's part, on my sister's part. So we've really, all together, I can't even imagine how many hours that we have spent looking for these people, because we actually thought my grandfather was somebody else. We knew he had a name change because of when he lived in New Orleans, he worked for a man named Jacques Mosler, and he was actually murdered in Miami, and they did a documentary on him, but he was the bookkeeper for him, and they had 2 sets of books, because it was when repo first came out. So they had bodyguards that walked him to the bank, and I guess he was like, I don't know, even considered some kind of mafia or something back then in that day. Very dangerous work if they have to have bodyguards walk them to banks and stuff like that. But anyway, the story came out that the second book got turned over to the feds, so he left and did a name change. So we always knew about the name change, and I spent years and years and years trying to get past finding out who his family was, because nothing was adding up with his father, just his mother. And she was well documented because she's a Grizzard, and they were very well documented. But nothing, I could not get past this man. Like, even the stories my aunt told, because when she did her genealogy, it was before really internet came out, so she had to physically go and look for the records at the places. And now that you have internet, you find out that that stories belong to other people. I guess. But so I'm really happy my cousin Johnny, he just got done sending me a whole bunch of the papers, so that is probably almost completely solved. But so we knew about the name change, and that's why we started this, is so we could find out, hey, who is this man? Who is he? And then we find out he's not even our man. He's my cousin's, but not ours. So this led us to this path, and so we're like just really excited, and I can't wait. I'm going to go take pictures of this cemetery, and hopefully the grass is cut, because Georgia's known for their rattlesnakes, because this is right where they had a rattlesnake roundup. So cross fingers, knock on some wood that I don't encounter a snake, because I don't do snakes, and that I do get to meet my cousin, and I do meet his mother, and maybe I can figure out some answers. Everybody in this family seemed to be a very prominent, well-liked people, so I can't imagine what the story is. I did locate some other family members. My face is starting to itch now because I think it's drying. But I did find some family members that was very hard to follow the paper trail, because there were so many name changes for each person. But that was because I guess WC and his first wife did not work out. I'm taking it must have been a bitter divorce. He went in the military, and when they separated really late in the game, he was like 30 years old and went in the military. And I did find a census where she went by the name when she was 12 years old, but after 12 I couldn't find anything because they went with a name change. So she took her stepfather's name and then got married like 3 different times, and then she died early. So then through those obituaries, I was able to track down 3 of her kids, and they live in a town called Fairmont, Georgia. And one passed away. The only male passed away. So, and I know with genealogy and ancestry DNA, you like to do male. So that was pretty sad. But I did find a great grandson, and I added him on Facebook, and then I started communicating with them, and they know nothing about WC because they didn't talk about him. And there was no answers, no nothing. So they didn't have any of that. And I told them, I said, well, there's a book out there of the family, the Perkins, from Perkins, Georgia, and that you can go read up about your ancestors, because they were not bad people. Maybe because their divorce might have been bad, and we don't know. We don't know what went back there. He could have been a son of a gun in a situation with her, and that's what even caused the divorce. We don't know. But the woman that I'm going to meet, cross my fingers, knew him, and she said he wasn't a bad guy. So we'll see. We'll just see. Maybe she can tell us what WC stands for. Maybe she has pictures, because when I saw the picture of the guy that I'm meeting today's grandfather, it looked just like my dad. Not exactly like my dad, but oh my gosh, the ears, the face, the nose, everything, even down to the shirt and what was in his pocket was my dad. Back in the day, they used to wear he was a real working man, so he had those working shirts with the 2 front pockets, and he'd always carry his glass cases with his glasses in his pocket. This man was that. So when I had sent the picture out to some of my family members, they, at first glance, they actually thought it was my dad. And he said, yeah, the family members are very, they all look alike. So if this was my grandfather's brother, I can't imagine what my grandfather looked like and how much he would have looked like my dad. And that even puts me into more questions. Did my grandmother know and kept this secret this whole time? Because if she looked at my dad and he looked like his dad, you would know. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll find out. No, I guess we won't ever find that out. But there's so much, because I live in a town that just my cousins were my cousins, my family. I did not have any outside family members because my grandfather changed his name. And so the Jennings name that's in Beaufort, if you're not my first cousins from my family, you're not related. And then I find out that I do have family members in Beaufort, not by the last name Jennings, but they tie in. So one of the people, when we did the ancestry, we found this man that lived on Hilton Head, and I was like, what the world? And then I went to his obituary, but then his kids didn't want to help us because they said that they believe everybody was belonged to everybody who was belonged to, or something like that, to a fae. That's what they gave me. And so when I was doing the research, the guy that passed away, his brother got married in Beaufort, and then had their family, and then their kids. And so it's just been a whirlwind to find out after all these years that you're related to people. I found out on one of my matches where a childhood friend, her husband and kids, and I was like, what? How am I matched? How? I called her up. I said, Allison, I texted her. I said, I gotta figure out how we related. I have no clue. And I'm pretty sure I'm close to finding it out because of the people that, when you're doing genealogy, my sister and I, we do genealogy different. She goes straight up and down. I go up and down too, but I go sideways, up, down, and way beyond. I take the time and to learn other family names, so then when I'm cross mixing, because when you live in the South and Georgia roots are very strong, and if you have two prominent families, they're gonna intertwine. So I've really uncovered a lot of entwining. But you don't travel far. That back in the day, we're talking 1800s and stuff, so you didn't really travel far. And yeah, so I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the journey, the path that it's taken me to, even though so many people do not answer you back, and so many people are afraid you want something from them, and that's not the case. I don't want anything unless you got a picture and a story. That's all I want. When you're trying to figure out your roots so late in the game, and you spent your whole life wondering what you're, learning a whole nother set of roots that turn out not to be yours, it does. I feel like I'm adopted, and I'm not. And so, yeah, that's my story. So I'm on my way to Hagan, Georgia, and I'll probably do a video on my way back so I can jot down things in my memory and record things that I heard and saw, and that way my journey is documented. So anyways, out for now.